Hello, welcome. This is my November wrap-up of books I read this month. However, it's going to be going up in early December, and I wanted to be festive. Outside in is my approach here. So I decided to dress up for. So without further ado, let me get closer. Let's talk about the books I read this month. So the first book I read this month was The Dead Shall Not Rest. This was a book I had on my shelves that I just had never read. I think I got it as a gift from one of my aunts. This book was good. It was fine. I don't really think it was that much of a mystery. I saw some reviews that had a similar sentiment, that it was more like a historical drama that had a mystery as the plot device rather than that being the actual core of the plot. The plot was more about Dr. Silkstone and his relationships to the people around him. But overall I enjoyed it, although it was kind of confused. It didn't feel like what it was set up to be, which was kind of a knock against it. However, it was good. I would read more of them if I had them, but I'm not gonna go out and buy another, So if you're into historical dramas too, that's not necessarily my favorite thing. I do enjoy them. I would recommend it. The coolest part, I thought, was in the back. There is a glossary. You see it? And it goes over all of specific places it mentions or things it mentions, like characters or the newspaper or a specific alleyway, and explains the historical significance of it and the kind of truth behind it. That alone was what really made me, even if this wasn't my favorite thing, really appreciate the series. I love something that's I don't necessarily know all the references and things that were going on, so having a little glossary in the back that explains it is just so cool, because it's so much cooler when you're oh my god, that character is based off a true person. At least that's how I feel. Next, I'll talk about the two audiobooks I read. So, in October, I read Spook in the Stacks, a Library Lighthouse mystery. The Library Lighthouse mystery was the one I liked more of the two cozy mysteries I read in October. And I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 5 stars. It's just a cozy mystery with a cat in it. It's in a library that's in a lighthouse, at Halloween time. Everything I could possibly want. And is it actually a great book critically? No, but it's just I loved it. There are 2 more Library Lighthouse mysteries available in my Audible subscription, so I ended up listening to both of those throughout the month. I didn't like either of the 2 books as much as I liked the first one. They just, I don't know, didn't measure up. The first one did happen to play with some things I really like, particularly just the Halloween time. I was in the mood for a mystery. I don't know, the other 2 just weren't hits for me. Something Red, Something Dead was okay. Red and Buried was less. Red and Buried I ended up giving 2 stars, I think. And the more I think about it, I'm maybe I waffled between 2 and 3 on that one, because I actually enjoyed the premise of it, which is they're doing construction on the lighthouse and the foundation, and they find an old box and they dig it up, and there's a map and a diary. And they think it might be, they're trying to uncode the map. Oh, there's also code, sorry. There's a message written in code, and they're trying to solve it. However, when it's first discovered, someone breaks in and trying to steal it and is murdered. He's left dead in the lighthouse library. So, whoops, that's the murder mystery. However, almost all of the book is actually spent trying to solve the mystery of the documents, which is the plot I enjoyed more. I mean, there is a lot about the murder too, but it just doesn't seem like that's the part that was developed, actually, especially when you get to the end, and I'm going to spoil it for you, so if you don't want to know, skip ahead. But the reasoning behind the murder just made no sense to me. The motive was wagadoo, just nonsensical. So I do appreciate it was a character that we see early on in the series. So I'm like, oh, it's not like it's always like an outsider coming in and one of them is the murderer. This is a recurring character, and he decided to steal the documents because he thought that they might clear the name of his great-great-grandfather or something, who was infamous for deserting the war, the Civil War. So he thought these might be, there's like a family story that he actually had deserted as a double agent and was giving information and stuff. Maybe it was the Revolutionary War? I don't know. Coded documents resurfaced with a map, and he thought maybe this is my chance to clear my grandfather's name. If your plan is to publicly clear your grandfather's name, you probably don't want to obtain the documents through illegal means, you know? Like, you will find out soon enough, what's the rush? And not only did he steal them, he murdered someone for a reason I still don't really understand. The dude was there. I like maybe stopped listening a little bit. It's just like, oh, and we got in a fight, and then like I pushed him and he fell, and like he's dead, and then like I took the documents. It's like, so how again were you going to clear your grandfather's name with those after you stole and murdered for them? Like, that doesn't work. It just makes no sense. Even if the character is like dumb or whatever, like that's really dumb. Beyond the suspension of belief for me. And then they're at this like Settlers Day festival, and he starts attacking our main character in public. Once she like realizes it was him, he's like chasing her with a sword, and everyone's like, it's part of the festivities, ooh, like a fun, and she's like yelling and screaming, and I mean, she's safe, she's fine, but the murder, it was just bad. The reasoning, the motive, the execution of the murder, bad. The documents were a lot more interesting. That had a fun story. That had a great reveal at the end. That was really the interesting part of the premise, was like, oh, the secret coded message, like, ooh. But it is a murder mystery, so I don't know. Oh, Something Red and Something Dead was fine. That one was middling. Like, sometimes it was annoying. I don't know. There were just like some annoying characters in it, and the premise wasn't as interesting to me. And it was a lot more kind of like a relationship based, because it was surrounding the wedding of her cousin and wedding drama and a lot of really annoying characters involved. And it was still like a fine book. Like, the plotting made sense, the mystery like made sense in a light way. I mean, once again, I'm not saying it's like great, but like it was fine. It didn't bother me the way the other one did, but I didn't love it like Spook and Stack. I think I gave this one 3 stars. It was just middled for me. Next, I will talk about The Shadows. I actually ordered The Whisper Man or Whisper Man at the same time. This was his second. This one came after Whisper Man, but I heard that like The Whisper Man or Whisper Man had better reviews, so I thought I would read this one first. So there wasn't like any like downhill. I really liked it. I would highly recommend this book. I couldn't stop reading it. I thought it was super compelling. Like, was the reveal my like most favorite thing ever? Like, no, but it's more of like a thriller horror novel to me than a straight up mystery. So this was good. Okay, so A Deadly Education. This was my November Book Buddies book with Maddie, and it has been caught up in some controversy on the interwebs and in real life, because it's like a book. There was a passage about dreadlocks that was offensive and has been apologized for by the author and will be removed. I agree that that passage was offensive and unnecessary, and I think she said that it was like added in a late in the editing process and didn't, or after the sensitivity edit or something. And you can tell there were a lot of these kind of info dump moments That was one of them, and I would say that those were not my favorite in this book. I had a little bit of trouble getting into it because of the manner, like the exposition. Yeah, the exposition and the info dumps that happen weren't the most effective means of world building to me. I'd rather more of a show versus tell in this sort of example. I did overall enjoy the tone of our narrator, Elle, and the characters around her. I thought many of the supporting characters were interesting and rich in their own ways, and I liked the turn of the magical school into a darker, I wouldn't necessarily say like grittier, but like it is kind of grittier version. A lot of things I did like about this book. There are some other criticisms it's facing about its representation of people of other ethnicities, backgrounds, and how Elle is a biracial character that's being written by a white author. There are some reviews on Goodreads. I think it's the first review, there was a article I read. Oh my god, it's on my phone. I'm using my phone to film. I will link it in the description, but it was, I think the title of the article was like Intersectionality in a Deadly Education, and the author was Chinese and claimed their Chinese ethnicity as in the article to explain their perspective. They seemed generally okay with the book. I've seen some other harsher reviews. I don't believe Mandarin was thrown in with other dead languages. I saw that was a claim. It was actually one of the two main languages that the school requires. You are either required to be fluent in Mandarin or English because they're the two most popular languages. And similarly, Hindi, she decided to learn because it was also a popular language, but one of the criticisms I saw was saying that Mandarin and Hindi were grouped with dead languages like Latin, and that's not the case. I don't want to defend the book for any other insensitivities that might be occurring. However, I think this is a book that's deep in a lot of controversies that may or may not be deserved. So it's important to like do your own research and find people that you trust or listen to, that you watch online for book reviews, etc., and use your own judgment if you want to read it. I would personally recommend checking it out. I thought it was a really interesting read, very fun, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. Alright, I decided to move closer to the camera. So the last 3 books I read were all the Truly Devious series that's out so far. I read the 3rd one. I don't know where it is right now. I read them. Since I'm just gonna go through them like as a whole, sort of, I did not realize, especially because they're really all one continued story. I did not read this when I read the first one and like only had it, that this is sort of like Act 1 and this is Act 2 and the other one's Act 3. Although they're not like a series where like this is the mystery and then yeah, the other one has the same characters and stuff but a new mystery. No, there are not conclusions, just more questions. I enjoyed them. I gave them all 4 stars. I thought they were really easy to read. They were fun. I ripped through them quite quickly. I liked the story. I liked the characters. Sort of like mixed feelings about David a little bit. Shout out to Nate. I really like Nate. There's just a lot of good stuff in here. Fun and easy to read. I would recommend reading these books. They're a good time. They're a good time. They're enjoyable, they're good entertainment, highly digestible. Some of my mixed feelings about David, if I want to talk about them, like, oh, he pulled your hair, he likes you, sort of vibes going on, very like misunderstood, angry, a little bit, but like, he is a teenager, he's acting out. I always liked Jess on Gilmore Girls, so it didn't bother me too much. He also kind of looked like Jess, by the way he described. One might say that. So yeah, I will leave it at that. Those were the books I read and or listened to this month in November. I have some other books I'm intending on reading next month. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like or maybe watching one of my other videos. I have a couple of book related ones. I also have a lot of Bachelorette related ones. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.